In the archives of the British Library, there's a ledger from 1838. It's not a military report. It's not a diplomatic cable. It's an auction manifest. Lot 412, Patna opium, 50 chests, sold to Jardine, Skinner and Company. Final bid, £84,000. To a modern reader, this reads like a cartel ledger, but this document carries an official seal. It was filed by the East India Company, and it was perfectly legal. We think of the company as a trader of spices and textiles, but by the early 19th century, its most profitable export wasn't tea, it was poison. Over 40 years, it engineered a supply chain that addicted 12 million people. It financed a private war, it bribed parliaments, and it did it all while keeping its hands legally clean. This isn't a story about smuggling. It's a story about corporate architecture, about how a board of directors in London turned addiction into a dividend, and about the moment the ledger finally caught up with them. To understand why a respectable trading company became a state-sponsored drug monopoly, you have to look at the balance sheet. By the 1770s, Britain was obsessed with China. Tea had become a national necessity. Silk, porcelain, lacquerware followed. But China's Qing dynasty wanted almost nothing in return. They had self-sufficient agriculture, advanced manufacturing, and strict isolationist policies. So Britain paid in silver, tons of it. By 1780, the East India Company was bleeding £400,000 annually to Chinese merchants. At the time, that was enough to bankrupt a mid-sized European kingdom. The company's directors in Leadenhall Street faced a simple equation: stop the silver drain or collapse. They tried textiles, failed. They tried wool, China didn't care. Then they looked at Bengal. Bengal had been cultivating opium for centuries, not for export, for local medicine. The Mughals taxed it lightly. The British realized something the Mughals never did. Opium wasn't just a crop. It was a financial instrument. In 1773, Governor-General Warren Hastings declared a company monopoly on Bengal opium. Farmers couldn't sell it privately, couldn't grow alternatives without permission. The company set the price, the company processed it, the company sold it. They didn't invent the trade, they industrialized it. The engine of this monopoly wasn't a smuggling ship. It was a factory. Two facilities dominated, Patna and Gazipur. By 1800, they weren't warehouses, they were processing plants. Each year, over 1.5 million Indian farmers were contractually bound to grow poppies. The company provided advances, cash loans at high interest. If you refused, your land was seized. If you failed to deliver the required yield, you were fined into debt. It was sharecropping with a state-backed enforcement arm. The raw latex was collected, dried, and shipped to the factories. There, it went through a rigorous grading system. Patna opium was rated highest, Benares second. Quality was standardized to within 2% moisture content. This wasn't black market production. It was pharmaceutical-grade manufacturing, scaled to an industrial level. In 1805, the Gazipur factory alone processed over 4,000 chests annually. By 1830, that number exceeded 10,000. Each chest weighed 140 pounds. That's over 600 tons of processed opium leaving Bengal every year. And not a single pound was officially destined for China, because exporting opium to China was illegal under Qing law, punishable by death. So the company built a legal firewall. The company's solution was elegant and ruthless. Instead of shipping opium themselves, they held public auctions in Calcutta. Private merchants, mostly Scottish traders operating out of Glasgow and Bombay, bought purchase certificates. They paid in silver. The company's books recorded legitimate commercial sales. Then came the middlemen. Traders like William Jardine and James Matheson bought the certificates. They chartered fast clippers, opium clippers, and sailed to the Pearl River Delta. They didn't land in Canton. They anchored at Lintin Island, just outside Chinese jurisdiction. There, they sold to local smugglers who distributed the drug through a vast coastal network. The company never touched the contraband, never broke king law, never risked confiscation. They just collected the silver in Calcutta. By 1835, opium auctions accounted for 18% of the company's total revenue. In bad years, it was the only thing keeping the dividend above 5%. The system was so profitable that it spawned financial derivatives. Traders issued opium bills, promissory notes backed by future auctions. Banks in London discounted them. The opium trade wasn't just funding the company, it was funding the early British banking system. And when Chinese authorities tried to enforce their laws, the company didn't panic, it lobbied. In 1839, Imperial Commissioner Lin Zexu finally acted. He blockaded the foreign factories in Canton. He demanded the surrender of all opium. When Jardine Matheson and other firms handed over 20,283 chests, Lin didn't just destroy it. He had it mixed with lime and salt, then flushed into the Pearl River over 23 days. An estimated 1.4 million kilograms of opium, gone. To the king, it was justice. To London, it was an attack on property. The company didn't fire a single shot, but it didn't have to. William Jardine sailed to London himself. He met with Foreign Secretary Lord Palmerston. He provided intelligence on Chinese defenses. He drafted maps of the Pearl River. He even suggested which cities to bombard. The British government framed the conflict as a defense of free trade and diplomatic equality. But the war plans, the financing, the logistical support, all came from company-linked firms. The First Opium War cost Britain £2.5 million. The Treaty of Nanking forced China to open 5 treaty ports, pay a £21 million indemnity, and cede Hong Kong. The indemnity was paid in silver, exactly the kind the company had been bleeding for decades. When the Second Opium War erupted in 1856, the pattern repeated. Anglo-French forces captured Beijing in 1860. The Treaty of Tientsin legalized opium imports. A tariff was set. The company's monopoly shifted from state-backed smuggling to state-sanctioned taxation. Dividends in London peaked. The ledger balanced. By 1858, the human cost was staggering. China's silver drain reversed, triggering hyperinflation and tax collapses. Peasant uprisings multiplied. The Taiping Rebellion, which would kill 20 million people, was fueled in part by economic destabilization rooted in the opium trade. The company's directors never visited Canton, never saw the opium dens, never held a poppy. They signed ledgers, they approved auctions, they collected dividends. And when public outrage in Britain finally forced Parliament to act, the company didn't face trial. It was dissolved. Its debts were absorbed by the Crown. Its shareholders were protected by limited liability. The system survived. Only the name changed. We remember the East India Company for its armies, for its flags, for the spice routes that mapped the modern world. But if you strip away the uniforms and the charters, you'll find something far more durable. A model. Regulatory capture, legal loopholes, privatized profit, socialized cost, the outsourcing of risk, the laundering of morality through corporate structure. The company that owned a country didn't lose everything. It proved that if you structure exploitation correctly, you can walk away clean. If this story made you think, subscribe, because next week we're going deeper into the economic catastrophes that shaped the modern world. The ledger is still open.